Good afternoon and welcome back to another edition of the Lynn Lowdown. I'm Danny Vittori, and today we're joined on Zoom by Dr. Josh Judkins from High Rock Tower. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks, Danny. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Thank you for pulling over to have a chat with us. And you're here to talk about High Rock Tower. You're a volunteer astronomer, so do you want to talk a little bit about your role there?
Sure, yeah. My sort of background is chemistry, chemical biology, and I work in sales now. So my background is not in astronomy, but I've been doing astronomy in an amateur way since 2012, and I've been doing a lot of astronomy outreach since. I moved to Lynn in 2017 and noticed that, High Rock Tower, you can't miss it if you're in downtown Lynn where I live. It's very clear right there. So I went, searched online about that. That's where I discovered Jamie Marsh and his work in the Office of Community Development, and basically approached him and said, hey, I have a background that includes, astronomy outreach, and have my own sort of telescopes. I do a lot of astronomy outreach from, graduate school. Would love to get involved. And we sort of took it from there. And then, so I work in conjunction with Jamie and another volunteer, Luke Conlon, and we open up High Rock Tower usually once a month. Sometimes in the summer we'll do twice a month, schedules depending, to the public.
And it's, as you said, a very obvious symbol of Lynn, and it's also very historic when you think about it. The land itself that it's built on and then the tower also holds a lot of history.
Absolutely, yeah. That whole sort of property area that was given to the city by the Hutchinson family, which perhaps we don't have time now to talk all about them, nor is my knowledge deep enough. But if anyone is interested in the sort of the history of Lynn, absolutely, you can dig more into the Hutchinson family. They were most known for their singing, or their sort of traveling singing group, but they're also known, as contemporaries of and friends of Frederick Douglass. So. They were very outspoken abolitionists. Indeed, there was a large abolitionist sort of group in Lynn. There's all kinds of history about that as well, centered around the time where Frederick Douglass got kicked off of the train in Lynn. So there's a lot of history and sort of tied to Lynn. And a tower has existed on that spot many hundreds of years. Back in Civil War era, there was a original tower that was there that once the Civil War was concluded and the North won, there was that tower was burned down in revelry. And then the new tower sort of was finished in the early 1900s. And really the Hutchinsons bequeathed this space to the city specifically for the construction of a tower and observatory. They envisioned it as a space where people could come together, observe the heavens, and speak about and sort of discuss the most sort of pressing ideas of the day. So really a forward-looking and, I would argue, very unusual sort of legacy to leave to a city like Lynn.
Yeah, it's definitely a very specific purpose for it, thinking about it. But now you have a very, you said 12-inch telescope that's incredibly powerful that allows you to see not just the moon, but even the planets beyond it as well, correct?
Indeed. Yeah, there's people I think are often surprised when they come. They think Lynn, we're so close to Boston. Lynn itself is pretty developed and very urban. I think that there's very limited things you can see in the sky, because when you look with your naked eye, you don't really see much when you're really blinded by the bright lights. But actually, when you look through the telescope, you're zoomed in so far, and these objects, even though there is so much light pollution, they're still so very bright that you can still see them. So for example, we very clearly see the planets, Jupiter, Saturn, Mars, Venus, time of year dependent, but it's not just like little dots. Like, when we look at Jupiter, we see cloud bands on Jupiter, red stripes on it. We see the Galilean moons, Europa, Io, Callisto, and Ganymede. We can even see the Great Red Spot if it's facing us at that time. We can see the rings of Saturn very clearly, and the gap between the planet and the rings. So, you're really seeing the rings. When it comes to deep sky objects, which depending on how much time we have on any given evening, we might take a look at those. They tend to be more advanced objects because they're not as charismatic as, the rings of Saturn. But depending on the crowd, people usually really enjoy them too. For example, like the Ring Nebula, or a nebula also known as Orion Nebula. We can look at things like globular clusters, like the Great Hercules Globular Cluster in the constellation of Hercules. So there's objects like that might not be something like you would see from Hubble, but when you're looking through that and you're seeing, oh, this is maybe like a sort of greenish haze, a circle shape in space. What is that? Well, we're looking at the corpse of a dead star, and indeed something that might be what our solar system would look like from that distance in many years to come, millennia to come, long time from now. And it's really interesting and opens up the conversation with attendees about the vastness of the cosmos, about all the different kinds of stellar phenomena, and just talking about what these structures are, what they mean, and how they relate to us in terms of distance in our sort of galactic neighborhood as well. So, like I said, those tend to be objects that we would say for those that are particularly interested in the topic, more towards maybe the end of a observing session. Usually we get really slammed, and so we'll maybe bounce around between things like Jupiter, Saturn, the moon, and then once everyone has had that chance to see those really just beautiful objects, then we'll switch over to the more challenging ones and let people really push the boundaries of what they can perceive with their eye, because some of these do require a little bit more of sort of advanced observing technique, like averted vision.
So I went up there for one of the first times a few months back, and it was amazing to, I think we saw the moon, and it was amazing to really think about what you could see and what's above you. You feel kind of small, but in a very interesting way. And so you said that people can visit about once a month or so. Is there a consistent schedule? Does it depend on weather? How does that?
It very much depends on weather. It is, I wish it was more consistent than it is, but it is at least once a month, usually the last Wednesday of the month. The fall schedule should be going up any day now. We're working on those dates as we speak. But yeah, so we'll have dates through the end of the year. We do open in the wintertime. Again, weather depending. Sometimes if we've had a lot of snow, a lot of ice, and freezing temperatures, it's unsafe to open the tower because it is just exposed to the elements. It's not heated or cooled or anything. So yeah, weather depending, we open up, but even in the wintertime. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so people can come see it.
And I should clarify, I guess we'll have a link to the city's website, but if you just Google High Rock Tower Lynn, the first link should be, you should see my face as a preview because there's a video on there when we had the optics updated and refurbished. But yeah, you'll see like several dates listed on that, or it'll say coming soon, and there's a link on there to sign up. You don't have to sign up to show up on one of those open nights. We leave the door open, but it does help in terms of communication. Like if there's a last minute need to change the timing or to maybe cancel or move to another date because of weather related issues. Sometimes weather can be unpredictable, and storms might roll in and we can't open if it's like raining because we don't want the telescope to get wet.
Which it does. That makes a lot of sense. And you were running to it's called a Starry Night program, too, over the summer as well. There's another program.
Well, that's just generally what we call. It has. Well, I didn't think of the name. This is well before I started this. This is what anything related to opening up to the public, High Rock Tower. That's just the Starry Night program. Okay. So that's been in existence well before I started volunteering in 2017. And so that program is just a way to have a fun name that attracts people's attention, and just is that name for that act of opening up the observatory and bringing the public in. In addition to that regular recurring program, we do have groups that reach out all the time asking for some private time with the scope, and that's something that we actually encourage. Rather than just showing up on observatory night where we might have 50 people or 100 people already there, if you bring your group of another 50 to 100, then it becomes really tricky for everyone to have a positive experience because of the wait times. So for like school groups, church groups, Boy and Girl Scouts, like those kinds of groups, we'll try and find times outside of those regular Starry Night evenings, so that everyone can have that time to have a much more like sort of prolonged and intimate space right with the telescope. So you're not, waiting in line for 15, 20 minutes and only getting a few seconds to look. These things sometimes really, it makes a difference, if you can be patient and calm and really observe, looking through taking the time to reflect on what you're seeing.
And all of it, is it, free to visit the tower, free to go up to the telescope, all that?
That's a really good question. Absolutely, it is free. I should say our tax money pays for it. So that High Rock Tower reservation is owned by the City of Lynn and maintained by the City of Lynn, as well as the tower. So this is operated through the Office of Community Development. Every time people come by, I tell them, this is your observatory. This is our observatory. That's why I encourage folks, come by, experience it. This is a really special thing that we have that a lot of cities do not have. It's more the exception than the rule to have something like this. It is not free. It is part of living in Lynn. And indeed, folks from all over the country take advantage. So if you live in Lynn, you should absolutely give it a try. And we have people that visit us from literally, people have come, people that are visiting just the New England in general will look online for things to do, and they find the observatory and come and see it. And I would say every single night that we're open and we have folks from Lynn that come up, the refrain every single time is, oh, I've lived here my whole life, I've never been here, or I've been wanting to do this for 50 years, I've been wanting to do this for 30 years, 15 years. So even though we've been, especially since say it's 2017, we've been opening much more regularly, there are still lots of people that haven't had the opportunity to come up. I encourage everyone, make it a priority. It's really fun. Even if you don't love space, it's still cool to say that you look through the telescope to see something in the sky. And the views of downtown Lynn and the ocean, Marblehead, Boston, it's just really beautiful views just from the top of the tower looking out at the land around you, not to even consider the amazing views of the cosmos through the telescope.
It is. It's definitely a very incredible and very unique experience for a city that I'm really happy we were able to bring some attention to. And before we wrap up, is there anything else you wanted to mention that I didn't hit on?
I guess just to reiterate, I really want people to take advantage. It's something really special, and I hope that folks give it a try. There are no facilities at High Rock Tower, so make sure we remind people of this when they come by, but use the bathroom before you come. If you need water, make sure you bring your own water, all that kind of stuff. And don't hesitate to make it an evening. There's all kinds of restaurants downtown. It's really close, to downtown, so you can easily, grab a bite to eat before sunset, and then come up to the tower and enjoy the tower. All ages are welcome. People bring little kids. I think it's really good always to expose your children to the wonders of the night sky. So definitely I encourage young kids. I love kids, so I'm able to work with all kinds of different energy levels, if you know what I mean. Kids can be running around being crazy, and it's, I love that. I will say though that for people with different abilities, it is a climb to the top of the tower. So about 108, 109 steps to the top of the tower. And so some folks that is too much for them to climb. And so that's why we have Luke as well. He sets up his telescope downstairs on most evenings. So people can still enjoy looking through a telescope down on the grass and without having to climb the stairs. So that's just something to consider from an accessibility perspective. The tower's, over 100 years old. They didn't have elevators that they were installing back then in the tower. So
yeah, definitely. But I want to thank you again for all the information that you provided us and all the insight, and thanks for coming on to talk about it.
Absolutely, anytime. And if anyone wants to, reach out and learn more about the tower or schedule a group, there's the website. You just, again, Google High Rock Tower Lynn. You'll see the page. You'll see a link to email Jamie Marsh on there. He'll reach out. He'll rope us in. And also that's where you can sign up to be notified when there's the open evenings, and you can sign up for the dates that you want to attend. Come visit us. We'd love to see you, and would love to talk to you about the night sky.
Great. So you heard it here first, all that great information, and check it out if you ever have a chance. I'm Danny Vittori. This has been the Lynn Lowdown, and we'll see you next week with more guests.